We are back with another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast. And as always, the name kind of explains everything. We're giving you advice based on everything we did wrong the first time. And each week I'm bringing on founders, investors, product experts, authors, technology gurus, sales gurus, and just about anyone who is very smart and can help us work out how to build a great business. And then together, we answer the questions about what's going on in your lives and in your businesses. People send them in or we find them on Reddit. But really, the guest has never seen these questions before and they're hearing it for the first time just the same as you. So if you do have questions or you're trying to put out fires, and if you're in a startup, you are trying to put out fires, send us an email and we'll workshop it on the show. So send those emails through to podcast@joeldtrapani.com. And as always, I'm going to paste that in the show notes so you can just copy and paste it later. I'm your host, Joel Trapani. I'm the co-founder, co-CEO of Vigo, which is an edtech scale-up. We've gone through Australia and the UK and now focus on the US. Outside of that, I do this podcast because I love talking about problems that people face in their startups because I've just faced so many of them myself too. For today, I'm super excited to be joined by Amos Schwartzfarb. Amos has an absolutely wild career and has had so many successes, it kind of seems made up a little bit. But Amos started out his career packing boxes from an old school mail order company, which he then helped convert into one of the first e-commerce companies in the world, which is really what gave him his first experience in startups. Since then, he's founded 6 more companies, of which 5 were merged or acquired. Now, as a hit rate, I'm pretty sure it's like 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 startups get to that level. Amos has had 5 of 6. So after that success kind of just became predictable for him, he jumped into the investor side of the startup world as the managing director of Techstars, where he worked for 8 years, making over 70 seed stage investments. To add to his accolades, he's also published 2 best-selling books for founders. The first one's called Sell More Faster, the ultimate sales playbook for startups. And the next is Levers, the framework for building repeatability into your business. 2 things I struggled with a lot as I was growing myself, and I wish I had these kind of frameworks. But while Amos's appetite for risk is clear in his journey through startups, outside of work, Amos is just as crazy. He's an avid rock climber, mountain biker, and adventurer where he spent years adventure racing and even ranked 20th in the world. So really just Amos is an absolute expert at helping startups go from 0 to 1. So let's jump into it. Welcome, mate. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. And I love that you said my background seems almost made up because I feel the same way. I look at it, I pinch myself, and I'm like, how did this guy do all that cool stuff? But it is kind of neat.
It is really neat. Yeah. Well, mate, tell me, what are you working on at the moment? Where's all your focus going right now?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm working on 4 things. I left Techstars a month ago after being there for 8.5 years. The 4 things I'm working on, one is making sure that I am very, very present for my family, particularly my teenage daughters. There's a little thumbs up. I thought I'd turn that off. Second is maintaining a level of fitness. I turned 50 last year, and I want to make sure that I'm equally as healthy when I'm 150 or at least 100. Third is, and you can see a little bit of my old studio behind me. I've gone back to making music, which is something that I did when I was a lot younger and in the process of recording an album. And the 4th thing, which is really the thing I think you're asking me about, which is I have a CEO consulting business that is akin to the work in Sell More Faster and Levers, and basically just taking that and working directly with CEOs at typically Series A stage companies, sometimes seed approaching Series A, to help them figure out how to find repeatability in their business and how to mature alongside their business as their business continues to grow and mature.
Man, I've talked about it so many times on this show, but CEO coaches are the most valuable investment you can make in your startup. Just this person has, or any of these CEO coaches, whether it's Amos or anyone, they've done it so many times before. You're working it out the first time. It makes so much sense. It's really how you, like, especially as a first-time founder, balance that risk and balance that learning that you've got to go through. But Amos, I love the fact that, when I asked you what you're working on, you gave the least typical startup answer I can imagine, which is, if people ask me, I'm like, I am my startup. Like, that's everything. But I love that, you had such a balanced approach to it. Like, I guess it means that just in your work, you get to take such a better headspace and a better and clearer way of thinking.
Yeah. For me, it's a new thing and it's a choice. I spent a lot of time not realizing that I identified with, whatever the company that I was building at that time, and everything went into it. And I think, wasn't waking up one single day, but just over the course of time realized that is important and it is not the whole of me. And so thank you for noticing, and I'm pretty intentional about leading, not leading with the professional stuff, because I think that's what people expect. And it helps, helps have really interesting conversations and meet people and, hopefully seem really real to people.
Man, I love it. Well, with that, let's jump into the challenges today. So this first challenge is called I Hate Sales. How do I get better? I'm not good at sales. I don't enjoy it or find it remotely exciting. I get a lot of anxiety from it and I find it depressing. For non-salesy people, how did you overcome this? What content did you find valuable? Did you find a mentor? Where do I get started? From Modest Nerd.
Hi, Modest Nerd. In Sell More Faster, I'm going to start with this. In Sell More Faster, I asked some people before it came out that knew me if I could get snippets from them. And I asked one of my previous co-founders, Russ Foltz-Smith, who is a serial CTO at early stage companies and is, taken companies, public multiple times. Brilliant technologist. And he, unprompted by me, came back, and I have the quote here somewhere, but I'd have to step out of camera for a second. But the gist of the quote is, in any startup, there are really only two jobs. You can either build things or you can sell things. And even if you can build things, you still have to be the kind of person who can sell the things you're building. So really, there's only one type of person, people who can sell things.
I love that.
I love it too. So I'm not answering your question yet, Modest Nerd. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad. But the reason I say that is you're probably doing more sales on a regular basis than you realize. And my guess is that one of a couple of things are happening. You either have an idea of what you think sales is like, the archetypical salesperson and process, and you don't identify with that. Or maybe there's three things. The second thing is, or there's something in the engagement with other people that is challenging for you, whether or not it's sales. That's a whole separate issue. So I don't even know if we can address that, but it's worth noting. Or the third thing is you don't believe in the thing that you're supposed to be selling. When I think about sales, and I think most people, I don't think this way. I think most people that think about sales are thinking about the used car salesperson who's a fast talker, who's basically trying to convince you that you need something, whether or not you really need it. The way that I look at sales is, I don't want anyone to buy from me unless it is truly going to change their life. Now, their life doesn't have to mean their personal life. It can mean their business life. It can mean the work that they're doing. I approach sales as I believe so deeply in the thing that I'm doing that I'm only going to talk to and try to sell to people who I believe are going to make a notable impact on whatever it is that they're trying to do, that they are so excited, it doesn't feel like a sale. And so what I might encourage you to do, instead of thinking about it as sales, thinking about it is having a conversation with someone to try to figure out if the thing that you have, that you love, that you believe in is something that they care about, that they give a shit about. And if the answer is yes, then have an interesting conversation about that. And hopefully that will lead to the exchange in value of they will extract value from the thing you're giving them. And in exchange for that, they will give you some value in return, which typically is money, but not always.
Yeah, man. I think, when you think about sales in that way, it becomes a whole lot more simple, because I know at the beginning of my journey, sales did seem very, very daunting. And I guess I'm not realizing it now until you're saying it out loud, though. It's that I guess I was identifying sales with a certain kind of person. And, it was really like that greasy car salesperson or, the coke addict Wall Street guy. And I was like, I'm not that. Like, how do you sell if you don't have this crazy arrogance? But as I've gone through, sales isn't about that at all. And I love that idea, that when you really believe in what you're selling, it doesn't feel like it's that salesy process. And that's true. You know, if you feel like I've just got all this value to give and I want to give you so much more value than you're giving me, like it's just an exchange, that does kind of unlock something in your brain a little bit. But what I would say as well is that doing sales requires a shitload of repetition. Like, even though I've always deeply believed in my startup, any of the sales I was doing, which is, you know, external to people buying it or to like getting a new employee on board, I have to sell them on my vision or investors, I was still nervous and like anxiety ridden when I started it. Now I love it, you know, because I'm getting a chance to tell my story. But like, I think, you know, getting the reps is really important. I love your thoughts on that, because for me, it took a while to get comfortability.
I think that's 100% right. You know, it's like most things, you know, before we started, we were talking about learning guitar. It's like most things, you have to do something a lot. I think what Malcolm Gladwell says, 10,000 hours doing something before you're an expert. You don't need to do 10,000 hours of sales or learning a product to become an expert, but like you have to do something with a lot of repetition before you're able to do it with like just this high degree of confidence that doesn't actually even cross it doesn't necessarily have to come across as confidence. It's like a comfortableness. It's a sincerity. It's a genuineness, because it just flows from you because you believe it so deeply and you know it so well. You know, I think, you know, for me, like I'll give you two examples. For me, one is like, I don't particularly love like getting on a stage and talking to people. Like, it's not something that I seek out. But when I get asked to talk about any of the content from my books, I don't prepare because I don't need to, because I've done it so many times with so many people that I just know I can get up there and I can create an engaging experience for the people listening. And the same thing is, and you know, this is a little bit adjacent to what Modest Nerd is asking, but I think that there's also a difference between like hardcore sales, which is what you described, and customer development, which is what you're really doing at an early stage company. Like when you're in an early stage company, your job is less about like actually selling someone and more about figuring out, can there even be an exchange of value? So I say that because, like, you know, I've written, you know, a book and a half on sales. I don't actually like sales. I don't like picking up the phone in that repetitive way. I've done it. It's not who I am. You know, it's not like, I think there are people that are fantastic at it that love it and they're career salespeople. And, you know, I know a lot of these people and they're just fantastic at it. They love that, like the repetition of like, here, I know what I'm supposed to say. I'm going to listen. I'm going to have these conversations. I'm going to try to extract what is important to this person so that I can share how I might be able to change their life. That's great. The other side, which is customer development, which is early stage company sales, is just discovering whether or not anyone really cares and how long they'll care for.
All right. First of all, if we had time, I want to dig into what you mean by you've written a book and a half on sales. But
Levers is like has some sales stuff in there.
Okay. I was like, is there another one coming out soon?
No.
Okay. All right. I thought we might be getting a little scoop here. But look, let me try and wrap this one up here. So, Modest Nerd. First of all, I get it. Sales can be really intimidating. And I personally felt a lot of intimidation when I first started sales. But to start to get better at sales, the first thing you need to understand is that sales isn't what you see in the movies, okay? Sales is really just boiling down to a trading of value, okay? You've got this product, and when it's a product you believe in, you know, it's almost like it's your responsibility to the world to get that out there. It's your responsibility to let people know about this. You're going to make their life better. And whether they give you $100 or $100,000, you're giving them so much more value than that. So you need to understand really the mechanics of that trade to begin with. And the second thing, very simply, is that you just need to get the reps in, okay? You're probably going to be terrible when you start, and that's okay. Like most people are, but you just do it more and more and more and more. And when you go into it, where you're just trying to talk about, you know, I guess understand this person, understand the customer, understand their problems, and see really if there is a fit, if you can add value, it doesn't feel like a sale. And you're just going to get better and better at having those conversations. So I just say, start small, okay? Start these conversations and just do it more and more and more. And over time, you will get better. But just remember that at the core of all of this is that you're just trying to make this person's life and business better. And that's it, Modest Nerd. That is your advice. And then that's actually it. We're doing a single question episode today. But if you like it, we'll get Amos back on again. So Amos, this brings us to my favorite section of the show, which I have no evidence if this is everyone else's favorite, but it's mine. So plugs. What's going on in your world? What do you want to plug at the moment?
Okay, so I think please, if you're a early stage company or a mid stage company, check out Levers for sure. You can go to Amazon, get Levers, just put in Levers book and it'll come up. If you're a CEO and you're looking for some coaching, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And then maybe last thing, if you like music, my band has 4 singles out. The band's called Barking Stars. You can get it on Spotify and Apple Music. Barking Stars.
All right. We're going to put all of that in the show notes as well. So just click on all of those. So listen to Barking Stars while you're listening to Levers and sending a quick LinkedIn message to Amos. And your startup is guaranteed to 10x revenue. But look, on my side,
I don't know if I'll guarantee that, but I'll guarantee you'll have a good time while you're trying to make it work.
Look, hey, thanks to everyone that writes in. We absolutely love answering these questions. So keep sending those through to podcast@joeldigitalmarketing.com if you've got a question. Now, do not forget to like and subscribe. I will say this on every single episode. Pull out your phone, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, 5 stars on everything. Oh, Amos is doing it right now. He's really doing it. And then everyone, steal a phone. It's totally fine. Take someone else's phone, subscribe on their platform, and then just give it back to them with their favorite new podcast. And we're going to wrap this one up. Amos, mate, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for the advice and sharing more about what you're working on. And to everyone else, this has been another episode of Do As I Say. We'll see you all next week.